So, Larry Goldberg, how are you doing on this wonderful Friday afternoon after a week of just up, 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 up? I mean, it was just a great
Outs-
week. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing outstanding. So does that mean Monday is a down day?
That's a really good question. As we go into the Fed number on Wednesday, who knows what'll happen Monday and Tuesday?
Yeah, so what are you calling for? 25 or 50
Boy,
or zero?
I've been calling for 25 with a nod towards zero. But now the street is nodding towards 50. And I want to bring this up later in more detail, Larry. So, but
All right.
go ahead, give me your number.
I think it's going to be 25. I think 50 is a dangerous number,
Yeah.
and it's not dangerous for a serious reason, for a
Right.
reason based upon logic. It's a danger. It's an unlikely number because it has a very strong association with the recession. When you do a 50 point, then the market tanks and
Yes, right.
we're in a recession, according to the history. Which is a crazy way to think,
Yes.
because anyway, the point is, I think they would be very scared of doing a 50.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, let me start with something that you brought up in the green room, and that is, a little concern you have right now with the FSD roadmap not really happening quite as fast as I think everybody thought it would. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, the problem is not that the roadmap is not happening as fast as people thought they would, because after all, we're only 2 weeks into September. We've got time, 2 weeks. We've got 2 weeks before the end of the month. 2 weeks is a magic number, as we know.
Yes.
The problem is that it's not rolling out. The existing releases are not rolling out. So the question is something happening? Where is the holdup?
Yeah.
And so I think that's the underlying concern. And I have some concerns about that. I was very excited by the release of that roadmap, and I thought it was one of the most important posts of the year.
Uh-huh.
If that roadmap holds, we are, within the year of seeing robotaxis from Tesla and autonomy from Tesla.
Right.
When they stop rolling out the existing release, or when they are not proceeding with the rollout of the existing release, that leads me to believe that it's going to be very difficult, if not practically impossible, to roll out all those updates.
Yeah, all the iterations necessary.
October 10. So that's my concern.
Okay. All right. Okay. So then we talked a minute ago about the stock. The stock was up pretty much all week, and I always like it when I'm right. That's exactly what I predicted on Sunday night, was that we would see a nice gentle increase as we go towards 1010, but specifically this week. I am, of course, calling for 265 by 1010. I think that we've made some progress. Do you think we'll hit 265 by 1010, or do you think I know you don't like to make these short-term predictions, but
Highly unlikely.
okay.
Highly unlikely. I think, firstly, between now and the end of the month, there's going to be a few ups and downs. I think we're reaching that point at which it's going to retreat. I think this is just a function of the market action around Tesla options. However, the action around Tesla is going to be determined before the October 10 is going to be determined by the deliveries.
Uh-huh.
And I think deliveries are going to surprise to the upside.
Okay. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we will see a typical Tesla action. And so I don't call it, week to week, as you may know.
Yeah.
But I think we will see oscillation in the price. I don't think we're going to see a jump, but I think after the deliveries, there will be a very firm note to the Tesla number, particularly if there is a good release of FSD between now and then. But if there's no release of FSD,
yeah,
I'm not sure that the stocks, but 265 is a reach.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about the numbers. So we've got, first of all, you noted something I hadn't seen, which is that the Cybertruck deliveries seem to be a little stronger than we might have thought. Not huge, but what was your?
Yeah, there was an S&P Global Mobility report that I read on X today. I think Sawyer posted it, but it's probable there were other postings of it. And they said that Tesla delivered 5,175 Cybertrucks, which are up 61%, they said, from month to month.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's true, but that's what they say. Well, 5,000 a month is not bad, but I think we could see this number climb to well over 10,000 a month by the end of the year.
Right.
So that's going to help two things. It's going to help deliveries for sure, because these numbers are becoming impactful. And it's also going to help revenue a little bit, but it's going to help gross margin a lot.
Right.
And so, because it's been depressing gross margin up to now. So that's very, very important. And then the other factor is that, by and large, EV sales across the board are up this month,
right,
according to S&P Global, and I can believe it. And I have this whole thesis about this hybrid sugar high that I'm going to be talking about next week.
Right.
I'm doing some research into that. So I think we're going to see an improvement in general in Tesla's report. So if you look at the timing, we'll have deliveries, but we won't have earnings.
Right.
So it's right in that gap where, if deliveries are as good as I think they're going to be, we will see the stock go up, and it won't be depressed by any earnings. The expectation and the opposition, or the sort of negative stuff that they always find. And so we'll see.
Okay. So you have typically been one who provides your guesstimate of the number for each quarter, and participate in that game with about 10 others. Right now, so far, the ones I've seen so far, Brian White, a rough 500,000, and I might be misquoting him on that, but I don't think I am. We had BJ this morning at I think I wrote this down wrong. I think it was 486.5.
Yeah, 486.5.
Right. And we had Concord out this morning. They're doing a big deal now. They're doing a 40 country analysis. They came in at 469.2. And I think the street and Troy are below that at like 460, 450.
Yeah. What did Concord put in for their Cybertruck sales?
I didn't break it down, Larry. All I saw was they did say that the US would be up because of Cybertruck, and they did say that China would be up, but that the rest of US sales would be flat or down, and Europe would be barely up.
Yeah, I'm a little bit lower than AJ. I'm closer to I'm just below 480, 480. I think I'm in the 470, mid 470s, maybe a little bit higher than the mid 470s. That's kind of where I am. I see that the US sales have been a little bit better than people have given it credit for. You know, normally, so Troy is normally quite accurate on that, but I think he's got his Cybertruck numbers crazy. He's talking about 2,000 or 3,000 trucks
Oh, wow.
being scrapped a month. I don't think it's possible.
No.
I don't see where they would be putting those trucks right now. So I'm significantly higher than Troy. I'm not as high as AJ, and I wonder why. I'd love to see the breakdown of his numbers. So I would say I'm on the high side. I'm higher than the street for sure. And I think we will surprise to the upside.
Now, AJ has also said he might raise his number because of the zero down policy that came out this morning, that he thinks that was done specifically. In other words, that it was strategic. They've actually been building up inventory of Model Ys and Model 3s. And he was wondering why the heck that was going on. And he thinks it was so that they could quickly deliver these when the zero interest rate policy went into effect.
You may be right. I mean, it sounds like a little crazy idea to me. I'm not sure I would do that. But I do know that Germany is in a very tight, very bad situation at the moment. Europe in general is not doing well. Right. That for sure. But China is doing exceptionally well, and the rest of the world's doing very well.
Right.
So we'll have to see.
Well, okay. You said, as we talked before the show started, that you had watched a portion of the Peter Thiel interview. I was mostly interested in your thoughts because you and I spent a lot of time talking about Taiwan, China, and India, and his conversation around Taiwan and China. He said he would not invest in any company that has a significant footprint. It's not how he said it, but he says he said that no matter whether you're selling to China, buying from China, or trying to buy in China to sell to other countries, whatever you're doing in China, except maybe like Elon owning a factory there that you're supplying the domestic folks. He would suggest getting the heck out of China, divesting, and his number one country that he mentioned was Vietnam. So there's an interesting thought. What do you think people should be getting the heck out of China?
I definitely would not be investing money in China right now. Elon's in a very privileged position in China, but that privilege comes, with some risk.
Yeah.
But he can use his privilege to great value as a great value add for the United States, because he has their ear and he has their trust. And he certainly doesn't have the trust of this administration. But, it's a pity because he would be a great interlocutor. Look, China has changed under this leadership. China has changed in so many ways, and not many of them good. I mean, China is not in great shape right now. And that's a leadership issue. That's absolutely a leadership issue. China has got no business not being in great shape right now, because they did so many good things for so long, and then to clamp down on their high tech, is just at a time when their property industry, which had been mismanaged for years and years and years, was about to melt down, was such a strategic mistake. Forget about all the other the global strategies and so on, which I think have been very poor. I mean, they're retreating now from this Russia adventure that they were on, and they're retreating from it, and rightfully so. But they're not retreating from a position of strength.
Right.
they're retreating from a position of weakness, but they have so many strengths. They've got so much going for them. They could have worked with the United States and Europe in a not a disengagement, but in a revision of the relationship. Look, they've got a lot to bring.
Yeah.
They could teach us to manufacture. I mean, they are brilliant at manufacturing. It's not, if you listen to Tim Cook, he puts it very simply. He said, it's not because they have cheap labor. They're no longer a cheap labor country. It's just that they're brilliant at manufacturing.
Yeah. Peter Thiel said there's 5 billion people in the world who have 5 billion of the 8 billion people in the world are working for less than they do in China.
Yeah, I mean, they're not cheap. I didn't hear that. I didn't get that far in the conversation, but Cook makes the point. And the thing about it is that China have, they have cheated. They entered into this relationship with the world, in bad faith.
Right.
But they've built this manufacturing, powerhouse, which the United States used to be, if you go back to the late 19th century and early 20th century and up to the 50s. They built this manufacturing powerhouse, and they have so much to offer the world. And yet, she has just closed China in, and it's such a mistake. Who knows? Maybe maybe things will change. I mean, he's not going to change, but he's not going to live forever.
Right.
And right now he's dictator for life. He's made himself dictator for life, which is another huge mistake that the Chinese have allowed to happen. So we'll see. Time will tell. Typically, dictators don't end well. Mao didn't. I mean, anyway, I've probably spoken too much.
You're good. No, so he also brings up, of course, this whole matter of Taiwan and of TSMC. And of course, basically, TSMC might be the reason to invade Taiwan and the reason not to invade Taiwan, because China needs TSMC also. And
if they invade, they get TSMC, I think, if it's successful.
Could they screw up TSMC in the meantime? What do you do if you're TSMC? What do you do if you're Taiwan Semiconductor? Do you start moving a lot of plant and capability off of the island? Or is that destructive to your homeland? And I mean, how do you?
They are. I mean, they're building a massive plant here in the United States.
Right.
And, they have to. Samsung have built a massive semi plant here in the United States, in Austin, actually, not far from Giga, Texas. Look, TSMC is in a very difficult position. It's always going to be rooted in Taiwan.
Right.
It is a pot of honey that could attract some very dangerous, animals, not bears in this case, pandas, but it's a difficult position. I didn't hear Peter's take on TSMC, but I just started that piece. But the best thing he said was at the beginning. He said, "Look, the best thing is just to, not take a position. Strategic, uncertainty is the very best thing for both sides. And China would be best not to pursue it. But as they continue to increase and improve and strengthen their military, the time will come when it'll be such an overwhelming, magnet for them, because that's all they're training for. That's all they're focusing on, that it's inevitable that they will strike.
It's interesting. I just thought of this while we were talking about it. You may have seen the pictures on X yesterday of what it looks like in Gaza with some of these underground cities, these massive, underground facilities, the tunnels, the whole 9 yards. And of course, Taiwan is very mountainous. And I've heard stories that they also have dug in, that they have a lot of underground capabilities there. Does that make it a different story for? I mean, China must know this.
I've read some of the strategic material on the defense of Taiwan. I mean, currently, the military maintain that they can, or the strategic thinking is that China will lose the battle. I'm not sure that's true currently. I think that we've hollowed out our military quite badly. I think that's about to change. I think that may be the best thing, that the best outcome of the war in Ukraine, that we've woken up to our strategic weaknesses. So, I think the earliest China would really be expected to invade Taiwan is in about 3 to 5 years. That's my off the top of my head guess. And by then, I think we may have fixed some of the problems. I know there's a huge increase in our capacity in many respects, and so it's possible we'll fix some of those problems. But to rebuild the Navy, or to reinforce the Navy, is going to take years. I mean,
Yeah.
to build another aircraft carrier, or to speed up the building of the aircraft carrier, or not only the building, but also the servicing, the refueling of these aircraft carriers, are going to take them out of, we don't have an aircraft carrier in the Pacific right now.
Right.
First time in years.
Right.
Decades.
On another subject, you said that you participated in Kathy's Friday morning effort this morning, and you said that they had a good conversation about Uber. So talk to me about what they had to say about the Uber
Waymo.
With Waymo, yeah.
Uber-Waymo deal is a brilliant deal. Waymo are being very strategic about their expansion. It's kind of like the playbook that I was thinking about for Tesla.
Right.
That was really what I was suggesting about Tesla. I mean, the candidates for me were Hertz and Uber.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the Hertz is not a great candidate for Tesla right now. Now, there's no reason why Uber wouldn't also do a deal with Tesla. There may be reasons why Tesla may not do a deal with Uber, but it's a brilliant deal for Waymo. It gets scale.
Right.
This business is all about scale. The faster you can get to scale, the better.
Right.
So we'll see. I mean, my read of the situation is that Waymo are off to a good start. But the onslaught when Tesla actually turns the switch is going to be very tough. I'm just fascinated with what Elon's going to do from an operating perspective. And knowing Elon, Tesla will just do it all. And knowing Elon, he'll win that battle. That's just the way I see it.
Yeah. So the other thing you said they discussed was, and very much the topic of everybody's of everybody on X today, is all about the new release from OpenAI, which is supposed to be able to think in a more human way, I believe is the way that OpenAI put it. And then we had John this morning, Dr. Know-It-All, doing his regular test that he does for each new release of anybody's new AI system. And he said it was by far the best at being able to solve the problems and do the things that were, I didn't listen to the whole video,
yeah,
but that was the outcome. So what do they have to say this morning with the Cathie Wood folks?
Well, I put my own spin on what I learned, you know, at the brainstorm, and I'm sure they'll be publishing the brainstorm in the coming week. And so, so the big advance in this particular version of GPT, of OpenAI's release is that, you know, up to now, you've had to do very careful prompt engineering in terms of telling ChatGPT how to think, what are the important issues, how to go about it. That's all about prompt engineering, being clever to drive the kinds of thinking that you want the LLM, the model to do.
Right.
What is the unique capabilities of this new model is not that it's that much bigger, brighter, deeper, whatever, than, you know, larger than whatever version 4 was. What distinguishes it is it has the ability to think more about how it should go about the task and to actually run the task and improve the task and think about how to improve the task without the prompt engineering. In other words, it'll develop its own thinking by retrying, and if it doesn't achieve the results that it thinks it should, maybe retry again. I'm not sure I understand entirely the mechanism of it. I haven't read up it. I just what I heard. And so there's a degree of inference that's going on. Sorry, there's a degree of training that's going on during inference time. And, you know, this is very disturbing to me. And the reason it's disturbing to me is because we are blurring the separation of the training from the inference. And the reason it's disturbing is that this is the scenario of the HAL 9000. You know, this is where the computer starts to train itself and to improve. And so what happens is that you're moving towards some sort of super intelligence uncontrolled by the human, you know, controller, by the human prompt engineer or the human interrogator.
Right.
So anyway, the point is, what makes it clever is not that it's faster or larger than the previous models. It's the different mechanism by which it goes about solving the problem, because it has you have the ability to tell it how long to take or how deep to go or how many iterations to do. So you can say, I want this question done in, I don't know, 10 seconds, or you can say, you can take as much time as you wish, up to 30 minutes to think about it. And what it'll do is it'll actually go through the process of trying one way. If it doesn't feel it's best, try another way, and so on and so forth. So I'm not sure I mean, I haven't read it up yet. It's just what I picked up this morning. But it's very interesting, and it does indicate, you know, a very significant, a potentially very significant improvement over what's come before. But it's not necessarily an improvement in the training. It's an improvement in the actual inference cycle.
Right. Yeah, okay. Very interesting. I haven't had a chance to even play with it yet, but I did think the fact that Dr. Know-It-All thought it was substantially better at his set of tasks.
Yeah, I think that it can be dramatically better. So, you know, the tasks that I use ChatGPT for, and I'm actually moving over to Grok, interestingly enough, I find it more friendly. But the tasks I use Grok for, I very frequently have to retask it. And even as I've learned from my retasking to improve my prompting, what I find is it loses its way in a very large project, and I have to stop it and reminded how to continue and have it, so it requires a lot of care and feeding, and hopefully the new version requires less, care and attention.
I did think that Grok did an outstanding job the other day. Somebody asked it whether or not the debate had been biased or not on it was a Tuesday night, and it came back with about 6 different ways that it could have been perceived to be biased, and it was very well written. I was pretty impressed with the analysis so quickly after the debate, and again, whether people would agree that Grok was right or wrong, I thought it was well written and well done. So Peter Thiel also thinks that we are either in or very near a recession. You and I, of course, have been believing that for a while.
Yeah.
But I have a new theory, so I want to play this.
Okay.
Okay, service wages continue to be going up. In fact, wages overall are continuing to be up like 4%. Every single thing that came out over the last 2 weeks are showing wages up, but especially service wages. Services are 60% or more of the economy. Services are also more likely to gain from AI. That's a new piece I've added. So this might keep us out of the recession, meaning that the service business being 60%, government being another 15 or whatever it is, government's doing fine, medical is doing fine. So we might stay out of the recession because of services, but that might also mean that we continue to have inflation at far over the Fed's number if services are seeing 4% labor inflation, because the biggest piece of all services is labor. So then
I think real inflation is below the 1% mark at this point.
Okay, so you think real inflation is fine, even though
real inflation, I think inflation is at recession levels right now.
Okay.
I think we are definitely in manufacturing and productive activities are in a deep recession. Building activities are in a recession.
Trucking,
commercial real estate is in a recession. Those services offset that. It's possible, but then there's been, that's this whole issue of the rolling recession. Will services be enough to drag us out of recession? Maybe, but I don't know. We'll see. So somebody's employing all these people. There's government. We know government's employing them.
Right.
But we'll see. I mean, okay. You may be right.
I know. It was not like I'm changing my mind. It was actually a part of the reason was there was a report out this morning. I don't remember the guy's name. I might have it handy, but it was a guy who has been very, very on top of the ability to guess where the economy is going based on all the different factors. And he said that he had believed that we would be seeing a 2 basis point decline in the GDP, and now he is believing it'll be a 1% improvement. I mean, a 1%
decline.
No, increase in the GDP.
Oh, really?
We went from a 2 negative to a 1 positive. And again, he pointed to government, he pointed to services, he pointed to a few categories that he thought were stronger than he expected.
Well, he has hope.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I guess. See, yeah, the problem, as I said, the good news is, okay, services pull us out of the recession. The bad news would be if wage inflation puts us right back into inflation. So, yeah. Okay. Markets are back to thinking we might get a 50. We talked about the 50 basis point cut.
Yeah.
Bond yields were down today. That shocked me. Stock prices were up again. We had 4% increase in the S&P this week. That would suggest that the markets believe that maybe it's going to be a 50 basis point cut after all. But a 50 basis point cut, as you point out, could be psychologically a negative,
Yeah.
Or it could be, oh boy, they've done it, and so let's go have a party. I keep looking at Powell and believing that he is conservative and that he's
Yeah,
going to,
I agree. I think he is.
yeah. And so that's why I think it's going to be 20. I don't know that strategically I believe 0 or 50 is better than 25. But I do think that he's conservative. And I think that right now the conservative move is 25.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
Well, that's good. On that note, no. So did I leave it before we look at the numbers, Larry? Did I leave anything out that was on
I
your
don't think so. I don't think so. I think we covered most of the
Well, let's look
important
at
issue.
let's look at this good news Friday here. We had the Dow up 297. We had the Nasdaq up 114. We had the S&P up 30. Tesla up 48. I'm sorry, 48 cents. And then the Magnificent Seven was mixed with NVIDIA. Well, down 4 cents, but it was mixed. And the Cathie Woods were mostly up, except for PayPal. We have Tesla in the after hours down 37 cents. So basically for the day, it's not going to be, if it ends that way, we will be, pretty neutral, but it was all over the place in the early going, Larry. I was asking people whether they thought that was options action because it was like
Yeah,
up to
Friday.
down
So
to,
those options all closed. So they settle, people try and get settled in the morning.
right.
You know, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So then we have the bond market. This is the end. This is not pre-market because it is Friday. So this is where we ended up down 2.3 to 3.657. We're getting down into that kind of base that I think maybe you and I had agreed on. Larry, I think Gary Black was the first one to say it, which was 6.35. We're only 30 basis points away from that. So we'll see whether we get down there, but the 2-year dropped 6 basis points today at 3.587, putting it now 7 exactly basis points lower now than the 10-year. So that is continuing to
Definitely the time for the recession to be announced.
theoretically, that's what it should mean. All
But
right.
they'll do it in a year's time.
Yeah, that tells a year from now. That's right. So then we've got oil. This morning was actually up again, bouncing off those lows. Ended up only 27 cents. So and the Brent was only up 10 cents. So Texas Intermediate still under 70. Lots of contrasting things fighting each way, but apparently the hurricane is over in terms of impact on the oil industry. So that one's out of the way, but we still had an increase. So it could be that the shortfall in inventories, which was the story in the middle of the week, might be impacting at this point. But overall, bounced around this week between Brent being under 70 at one point to back over 72 again. Natural gas doing very well. Down 267 though for the day, but that's still at 2.3, 2.29, 2.294, almost 2.3. So yeah, natural gas though for the week did very well. Now here's the big one. Here's the one that everybody's asking the question. It was all over the headlines today. Gold crosses the 2,600 threshold. 2606 is where it is closing for the day.
It's kind of where I expected it to be. I mean, yep.
So same old things. We're not hearing anything new. 𝐓𝐡𝐮𝐫𝐬𝐝 said, well, how come the rest of the market is acting like it's recession and gold is acting like we're running for cover? But he should be able to answer his own question on some of those things, because I know he's stated earlier that he knows about China and South Korea and other sovereign nations stocking up on their gold reserves. But in any case, so copper up 0.61 today, 4,221. I feel like I saved 4 0.221 for copper like half the time. That seems to be the middle
Where it
ground.
seems to be settling. Yeah.
And silver over $30 to $31.
Yeah. Well, that kind of reflects what gold is doing.
Yeah. Dollar very flat in against the euro, but down a bit on the yen. And then Bitcoin for the day finally crossing back over 60. So up 1945 has crawled back 6,000. I'm sorry. Yeah, 6,000 points over.
Amazing trading action on Bitcoin. Eh? Amazing.
Is there a lot? Is it a lot of volume?
Yeah. No, amazing trading
action.
Opportunity because of the moves.
Oh yeah, big moves, big moves. So that's where things sit as we get to Friday night, Larry. What happens? So next week, there's a lot of people that think that the market goes down after the rate cut. Is that selling the news? Is that what you're?
I think so. I think so. That's the conventional wisdom, but sometimes the conventional wisdom is right.
And sometimes it's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we'll see what happens next week. Any last thoughts? Any last? No.
No, it's been a good week. Been an interesting week, that's for sure.
All right. Well, people should go and look at the Cern Basher video from earlier today, because Cern Basher, of course, as always, pulled out all these charts and graphs and everything else. And he showed us. Do you know, Larry, how long you have to hold Tesla to be absolutely certain?
6 years.
Shh. Well, go find out why, and go find out how good you
There's no period in a 6-year cut of Tesla's stock history where you weren't up.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
There's no period in other than 6 years.
And it's really not that bad for 5 and 4 years either. Now, 3 years, you could have got smacked.
You can lose your boots. Yeah.
Well, sometimes, yeah. Sometimes you would have made a lot.
I mean, you could have lost your boots, but you could have lost your boots in like a 9-week period.
Right. Exactly.
From the time the S&P till, it reached the bottom in that cycle.
Yeah.
It was like a 40% drop.
Well, you could have lost your boots in NVIDIA this year.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Absolutely right.
Could have also made a little bit of money.
A bunch of money. Just depending on your timing. It all seems to come down to timing. All right, Larry, thanks as always for coming on and helping us celebrate the good news.
Yep.
All right.
News. Thank you.
Take
care.
It's been great talking to you.